In June next year, we'll be 20 years on from the original Rio summit. Rio Plus 20 is an incredibly important opportunity for all of us that believe in green growth to play a key part. The United Nations has chosen the theme of the green economy for Rio. And I met recently with environment ministers from all around the world, and there is political will building to achieve some tangible outcomes from Rio. So meeting together in Delhi last month, we've identified areas where there's consensus. So the green economy ought to deliver sustainable agriculture. The green economy ought to deliver clean renewable energy. The green economy must deliver resource efficiency, and that is something I think where the UK and Europe really has a lot to offer. I feel passionately about this battle for green growth, and this is a battle that we have got to win. I almost don't need to convince all of you, but I'm going to need your help to convince people out there who often make the separation about green or growing. Whereas I believe, and I'm sure you're here because you believe, you can be both green and growing. And many of your companies, and I'm not going to name check you all in the 5 minutes that's here, but many of your companies absolutely exemplify how to do that. Now this is a difficult moment. We've looked over into the abyss of the economic turmoil that the world is facing. But it is also a moment at which we have to rethink our growth models.
Now, why is green uniquely placed as a sector to try and rekindle confidence and demand? Well, I would give two arguments. Firstly, the green economy is to a great extent policy-driven. It's about market failure, so it requires policy to try and correct those market failures. So in that sense, in the short run, it has the advantage of being sheltered to some degree from the economic headwinds. If you're relying on something that's driven by policy, you're probably going to feel more confident in investing than if you're relying on something that's driven by consumer confidence, consumer spending, or business confidence. Secondly, and this is crucial, green investment is long-term credible. This isn't a sort of fly-in-the-night, temporary priority. It's not, Keynes is famously paraphrased as saying that you can rekindle demand by digging up holes and filling them up again. And you can, actually. That will create demand. It will create jobs. But it's a bloody expensive way to do things, right? And you're not going to get much by way of private innovators and investors saying, that looks like a growth market, I'll put my money into that. Green is very different. It's got a very credible long-term future. There are massive opportunities. HSBC estimate that the low-carbon energy market is going to triple to more than $2 trillion by 2020. It's already one of the fastest growing markets.
That it is still very hard, I think, for investors, small investors in particular, to know with confidence how to interpret the differences between companies where they would like to put their resources. Because at the moment we don't have easily transparent methods of demonstrating to the investor why it's better to invest with company A than company B because of the efforts company A has made to green itself and put itself on a sustainable footing. After just what we've been through, don't people want to invest in something that's more sustainable than something that's less sustainable?
Another very attractive feature of green is that it doesn't rely too much on public spending. You can have carbon pricing, which is either a tax or trading, which raises revenues. You can have standards and regulations, which change producer and consumer behavior. Or you can have a green investment bank, which can massively leverage public money and help stimulate the economy. Right now, green investment is not going to crowd out productive alternative investment, and that's a genuine concern when the economy is running at full capacity. If you invest in green, you're probably going to replace through capital markets some other investment. If you create green jobs, you're going to displace alternate productive jobs. Right now, capital is incredibly cheap. In fact, real interest rates are negative. There's unemployed resources in the form of labor, in the form of capital. So I think, to conclude, now more than ever, the message from economics is very clear. It's act now. This is not, as Caroline already said, this is not a horse race between green and growth. It's about green and growth. And what we really need in this country is to avoid moving towards weak or confused government policy, because ignoring the many multiple failures that I spoke about undermines markets, delays recovery, and raises the cost of embracing the real growth story of the future, which, as we said already, is a green growth story. I think the UK is in a very good position to do a lot better than that, and we really mustn't waste this opportunity.
So I'm going to stick with buildings, and I apologise, it was also focused on Green Deal has been mentioned, because we're kind of in this area of trying to look for silver bullets, and it strikes me that things are actually pretty good. It creates jobs, it helps our balance of payments, it tackles fuel poverty, they're healthier homes, they're more comfortable homes, improves energy security, and of course tackles climate change. There will be people that think, great, I hadn't got access to money, I now have access to money, but I can't see people, frankly, queuing up on a mass scale because it's going to save lots of money. It saves some. The golden rule, remember, is that it saves more than it costs. So, what can we do? The government, lots of money. Well, we never had lots of money, even when we had lots of money. So what I just proposed, nice and simple, and I'm conscious of the balancing the books from a Treasury perspective, is factoring stamp duty based on the energy efficiency of the home. If you don't want to undertake energy efficient measures, even though the Green Deal is available, then one must assume you're happy paying a higher stamp duty. After all, you're happy paying higher than necessary energy bills, so what's the difference? So I'd suggest something like, or indeed factoring stamp duty up and down, is a very credible, sustained commitment by government, and one that businesses can look at it and say, we think it's highly unlikely this will ever be reversed.
Well, there's one more thing that's happening this evening, and that is that we're also announcing the release of the Aldersgate Growth Statement, which is something we've got signed by a wide range of businesses and members. You know, it's essential that we not only remove barriers to growth, but we also now use this as an opportunity to shift the economy into a more resilient and resource-efficient mode. The second is to set out some clear rationale and objectives to meet the government's commitment to increase the proportion of tax revenue accounted for by environmental taxes. We must move our tax onto pollution and resource depletion and away from jobs and wealth creation. The third is to put the Green Investment Bank at the forefront of the growth strategy, and there we're looking for it to be able to borrow from capital markets once it's operational, and we are looking for evidence that the legislation is going to be passed in 2012. I think it's absolutely right to commend the Chancellor for putting the $3 billion aside for it, but we do want to see the colour of that money, and we're not going to shut up until we actually see it up and running. The fourth area is following the publication of Skills for a Green Economy, which is a good piece of work, more work with business to develop a comprehensive action plan to address green skill gap. Our fifth thing is to streamline the climate change and energy policy landscape, both to raise ambition and reduce some of the complexity and provide stronger coherent signals. And the last is to enhance the role, which again the Minister mentioned herself, in terms of public procurement, to increase that leverage, and also for support for RD&D, particularly to drive innovation in some of this sort of high-tech zone. And then I'll get my one last sort of personal thing, is listening to the Minister, absolutely agree with what she was saying about investors. It does occur to me that one thing that could still be done, that maybe would give that transparency for investors to see where green investments could be made, would be to have some kind of mandatory carbon reporting.
I hope that you will join me in this partnership that the Alders Group provides. Help me to go out there and give the message to people who haven't got it yet that you really can be green and growing.